Very shocking news. Sofronio Vasquez says Michael Bublé made a career-changing promise. The narrative of reality television competitions often follows a predictable, fleeting trajectory. A contestant wins, the confetti falls, the credits roll, and the intense mentorships portrayed on screen frequently dissolve as soon as the cameras are turned off. However, for Sofronio Vasquez, the history-making winner of The Voice USA, the story has taken a remarkably different and enduring turn. The bond between the Filipino vocal powerhouse and his coach, the Canadian crooner Michael Bublé, has evolved from a temporary televised alliance into a genuine, long-term professional partnership committed to global success. In a recent and revealing interview on Fast Talk with Boy Abunda, Sofronio provided a rare glimpse into the depth of this relationship, confirming that Bublé's support was not merely for the duration of the show. Sofronio disclosed a specific and ambitious promise made by his mentor. According to the singer, Bublé vowed not to stop helping him until he reached 1 billion. While Sofronio did not specify whether this metric referred to views, streams, or financial milestones, the intent behind the promise was crystal clear. Bublé views Sofronio not just as a season winner, but as an artist with limitless international potential who deserves a permanent place in the industry. During the same interview segment, Sofronio reflected on the serendipity of their connection. As an alumnus of the Philippines singing competition Tawag ng Tanghalan, he had navigated the competitive world of music for years. He revealed that his decision to join Team Bublé was driven by the instincts of his inner child. Michael Bublé had been his idol since he was young, a musical figure whose phrasing and tone he had studied long before he ever stepped onto an American stage. In a lighter moment of the interview, Sofronio also shared that Bublé had chatted with him about a surprising previous connection to Filipina actress Christine Hermosa, adding a layer of personal rapport and humor to their professional dynamic. This revelation comes amidst a whirlwind of high-profile engagements for the singer. Sofronio recently enjoyed a grand homecoming on the popular noontime show It's Showtime, where he delivered a stirring performance of his winning piece, A Million Dreams, a song that has now become anthemic of his journey. His achievement was further recognized at the highest level of government, as he paid a formal courtesy call to President Ferdinand Bongbong Marcos Jr. at the Malacanang Palace. Now, as the first Filipino and first Asian to ever win The Voice USA, he is preparing to translate this momentum into a live experience, set to hold his first solo concert in Cebu on January 18th. To fully grasp the magnitude of Michael Bublé's promise and the significance of this homecoming, one must look beyond the accolades and into the quiet, often difficult years that preceded this moment. The image of Sofronio Vasquez today, polished, celebrated, and mentored by icons, is a stark contrast to the uncertainty that defined much of his early life. His journey was not a straight line to stardom. It was a winding path paved with near misses, silent sacrifices, and the crushing weight of waiting for a door to open. Sofronio's story begins in the Philippines, a nation known for its deep love of music and its abundance of vocal talent. In such a competitive environment, being good is often not enough. For years, Sofronio was a familiar face in the local contest circuit. He was the singer who could hit every note, the contestant who garnered applause, but he was also the artist who often found himself standing just outside the winner's circle. His time on Tawag ng Tanghalan proved his vocal prowess, yet grand, sustainable stardom remained elusive. He was respected by his peers, yet he was not yet a phenomenon to the public. There is a specific kind of loneliness that haunts an artist who is talented but undiscovered. It is the feeling of watching peers rise while you remain stationary. It is the quiet drive home after a competition, wondering if you have reached your ceiling. For Sofronio, the dream of music began to feel heavy, a burden rather than a blessing. The practical realities of life began to encroach on his artistic aspirations, forcing him to make choices that felt like endings rather than beginnings. In a move that many viewed as a surrender of his musical dreams, Sofronio made the difficult decision to leave the Philippines. He migrated to the United States, not initially as a touring artist, but as an immigrant looking for stability. The narrative of his life shifted dramatically. The microphone was replaced by medical scrubs. He found work as a dental assistant, a noble profession, but one far removed from the applause of an arena. This period of his life is essential to understanding the emotion behind his current success. Imagine the internal conflict of a man who knows he was born to sing, spending his days in the sterile silence of a dental clinic. He was scrubbing instruments, sterilizing equipment, and assisting with procedures, while in the back of his mind, melodies were still playing. It was a time of sacrifice, sacrificing identity for survival, sacrificing the ego for stability. It was the immigrant's tale of starting over, of becoming anonymous in a new land where no one knew his name or the power of his voice. During those years in the US, the fear that his time had passed must have been overwhelming. The entertainment industry is notoriously obsessed with youth and novelty. Sofronio was no longer a teenager, and he was thousands of miles away from the fan base he had started to build at home. He was facing the very real possibility that his singing career would become nothing more than a memory, a story to tell friends at dinner parties rather than a reality to live. The uncertainty of whether he would ever hold a microphone professionally again was a constant companion. But the fire did not go out. It simply smoldered, waiting for a spark. That spark came in the form of an audition for The Voice USA. It was a gamble of immense proportions. To step onto that stage was to risk rejection on a global scale. It was to open himself up to judgment in a foreign country, singing in a second language, against competitors who had the home court advantage. When he sang, and when the chairs turned, it was not just a victory for his voice. It was a vindication of his struggle. When Michael Bublé turned his chair, he didn't just see a contestant, he heard a peer. The connection between them was instantaneous because real musicians recognize the texture of struggle in a voice. Bublé, who himself navigated a long road to jazz and pop stardom, likely saw in Sofronio the same hunger and the same undeniable gift that refuses to be silenced by circumstance. The rise that followed was meteoric in the eyes of the public, but for Sofronio, it was the result of a lifetime of preparation. Making history as the first Asian winner was a monumental achievement, breaking a bamboo ceiling that had existed in American reality television for years. It transformed him from a dental assistant into a symbol of representation. Suddenly, he was carrying the hopes of an entire nation and the pride of the Asian American community. The mentorship from Bublé, therefore, is not just about industry connections. It is an acknowledgement that Sofronio belongs in the upper echelons of the music world. When Bublé promises to help him reach 1 billion, he is validating the years Sofronio spent in uncertainty. He is telling the dental assistant from Ms. Amos Occidental that his dreams were not foolish, and that his talent is limitless. It is a promise that bridges the gap between the silence of the clinic and the roar of the stadium. Now, as he prepares for his concert in Cebu and meets with heads of state, Sofronio carries himself with a quiet dignity. He has not forgotten the days of the dental clinic. He has not forgotten the sting of past losses in local competitions. These experiences have grounded him. When he sings A Million Dreams, he is not just performing a cover. He is singing his biography. He is singing for every dreamer who has had to put their passion on hold to survive, and for everyone who has ever felt that they were running out of time. His return to the Philippines is a victory lap, but it is also a homecoming in the truest sense. He returns not as the contestant who almost made it, but as the champion who did. The respect he now commands, from the President of the Philippines to the hitmakers of Hollywood, is earned not just by his vocal range, but by his resilience. As the lights go down in Cebu and he takes the stage, the audience will see a global star. But in the quiet moments between the notes, They will hear the soul of a man who walked through the valley of obscurity to find his mountain. Sofronio Vasquez's story is a reminder that sometimes the longest detours lead to the most beautiful destinations, and that even when the world is silent, if you keep singing, eventually, the right person will listen.